I taught a man how to say no to women, and it changed his whole life. He thought he was doing it right, being the nice guy, giving women everything that they wanted, and he always wondered why he ended up in the friend zone, or worse, on the losing end of painful breakup after breakup. And the thing that was holding him back the whole time was something that a lot of men do: saying yes when you should be saying no. It might sound counterintuitive, but it works. And while you think that you might be being the nice guy, what you're doing is actually ruining your relationship or destroying your chances of getting in one. As for my client, well, his story just demonstrates why learning how to say no to women is vital and why so many men struggle to do it. When I first met this guy, he had a long habit of bending over backwards for the women he was attracted to. He cared about being a good partner, but his idea of a good partner was more like a yes man or a doormat than an equal. But there was a dark side to his niceness. He would constantly do everything to anticipate her need and desire at the expense of his own well-being. Like, for example, he would offer to pick her up from the airport even though it was gonna make him late for work. He'd say yes to extravagant dinner dates even when he was struggling financially. He actually used to carry a backpack just for his girlfriend on nights that they would go out so that she could put a pair of flats in the backpack and change out of her stilettos when her feet hurt. And you know what? He was miserable. And little did he know, his misery at doing stuff for her was actually driving her away. When we started working together, it became really clear really quick that this guy had no boundaries. By the way, quick definition of boundaries: the distance from which I can love you and me at the same time, AKA what I will and will not allow for myself in my relationships. Hang on, that'll get more clear in just a second. If you've been watching my content for a while, hi, then you already know that boundaries are hot and necessary for a healthy relationship. You see, in the process of bending over backwards to please her, he completely lost touch with himself. Women don't want to date their personal assistant. They want to date a fully formed person with their own thing going on. You see, boundaries make it clear where I end and you begin. Just like the boundaries on a map. Like, there's no question where Michigan ends and Ohio begins, unless I guess maybe you're somewhere in the woods between them, but the map is really clear. That space is the distance that is required to fan the flames of desire and make two people want to each other. When it came to my client, eventually there was so little left of him that she started to lose interest. I mean, regardless of how well he was treating her. There's a third sinister side effect to constantly bending over for your partner. You see, from the beginning of this relationship, he set the standard for doing a million little things for his partner that he actually didn't want to do. So when years later, that shiny new relationship energy started to wear off, he found himself continuing to do those things even though it wasn't authentic for him. It was no longer coming from a place of love or affection. I mean, actually, you could say that it was no longer coming from a need to please her, to cement the relationship and make sure that she wouldn't leave him. You see, saying yes to her began to feel like a chore, an obligation. If you put someone else first for long enough and neglect your own needs, it is inevitable that you will start to feel resentment towards them. And then they're gonna wonder what the happened because she didn't do anything differently. You know, you were acting this way, you're still acting that way, but now you're mad about it? By the time we started working together, things had gone from bad to worse. She was bored. She was losing attraction to him and he was down on himself, feeling lost and angry. He couldn't even tell exactly why. Now look, through our work, we were able to relight a fire in their relationship as well as build up his self-esteem and his general levels of satisfaction in a lot of areas of his life. And needless to say, the bedroom is smoking hot once again. But how did we get him there? The first thing we had to figure out is how often he was saying yes to himself. So many of us are people pleasers and we actually have no idea that we're doing it, but we have a hard time saying no. We'll do favors for people, go places we don't want to go, do things that we don't want to do, all because it feels impossible to spit out that simple 2-letter word. And that's because we think if we say no, we're gonna lose their love. And the risk of losing love is just too much to bear, so instead we bear the loss of ourselves. But the thing we don't realize is that when we say yes to someone else, we are actually saying no to ourselves. Every time we do something that doesn't align with who we are and our greater truth and what we need, we are betraying ourselves at the deepest level. So the first step is to always check in and say yes to yourself first, to what you want to do. I mean, what are your non-negotiables? Things you won't be late for, you won't miss, you're not gonna sacrifice for anybody. Like you wanna say yes to spending time with your friends watching the game on Saturday. Well, guess what? That's gonna mean saying no to getting brunch with your girlfriend. You wanna say yes to building your own business? You're gonna have to say no to binging on TV at night with her. You wanna say yes to eating healthier so that you can get a harder dick like you learned about in my Hard As You Want course? Well, that means saying no to grabbing fast food together after work. A good way to do this is to really take a moment and check in with how something feels in your body, in your gut. Does it excite you? Will it feel good to do this? Or does it feel sort of heavy, like something that you want to get away from, a feeling of like reluctance? When my client finally gave himself permission to check in, he realized that he hated carrying that backpack around. It made him feel like a pack mule, and he always had to be managing it, making sure nobody was stealing it when they were at the sex club together. The only reason he carried this bag around was so that his girlfriend could change shoes. And that was starting to make him feel like a damn fool. As soon as he allowed that space to really be honest with himself, he had his answer. And that's because the body always knows. Once he realized that he had spent years betraying himself in these small ways, that's when things got a little bumpy. And this is something you should always expect when making meaningful and worthwhile changes in your life. So what did he do? He said no to his girlfriend. No more backpack. No more doing things that were an inconvenience to him or too much of a compromise. No more. At first, his girlfriend didn't love it, which taught him a valuable lesson in what he needed to do in order to make the healthy relationship work for them both. He had to accept her reaction. When he first started saying no to his girlfriend, it did cause some friction in their relationship. I mean, let's think about it. If you are used to someone constantly bending over backwards for your every desire, contorting to make sure that every single one of your needs is met, and then they suddenly stop, you also might be left scratching your head wondering what the heck happened. Yeah, she was disappointed. She sure was. But you know what? Ultimately, she was fine. She had lived her whole life without his backpack, and she could learn to live that way again. She learned how to take herself out to brunch. She can get all the fast food she wants on her own. She can go see the movie, the art show, the new bar, or whatever by herself or with her friends. And if for some reason she couldn't, that would point to a bigger issue called codependency, and that's a subject for a different video. But my client, what about him? Well, he learned a super valuable lesson. It is okay. Listen up. Listen up. It is okay. It is even necessary to risk disappointing people sometimes. Even the people you love. Even the people who you are closest to. Even the people who depend on you. You may have to you're going to have to disappoint them from time to time. And if they're good for you and if they really love you, they will understand and accept your decision. If someone only loves you because what you are able to do for them, is that even really love? You see, it is so hard for men to feel like they're disappointing women. They feel like they will die, so instead they slowly kill themselves doing stuff they don't want to do just to avoid having to deal with her feelings. I've seen it time and time again. So many men would rather just do the thing that they hate rather than deal with the emotional fallout of not giving a woman what she wants. And this is the make or break point in this process. This is what you have to learn. You've got to be with her reaction. He had to resist the urge to try to fix things. He had to refuse to walk on eggshells or be her doormat or her therapist or just her shoulder to complain on. See, the thing about boundaries is that they are not apologies. So when you set them, you also have to resist the urge to say sorry for having needs. You have to give your partner the time and the space to process the line in the sand that you just drew. And you know what? She sure fussed. Yeah, she fussed. She fussed and then she got over it. She realized that it wasn't that big of a deal. And more importantly, she realized she didn't want to make him do anything that he didn't want to do. And that is when she saw how hot he was being his own person. How sexy he was when he got back from playing soccer with the boys, and how much sexier that was than him spending Saturday holding her purse in the dressing room. And this is where the real change begins. Because as he stopped making space for the stuff that he didn't really want to do, he was able to use that space for the things that actually brought him joy. And as he carved out a little more focus on himself, his relationship with his girlfriend got stronger. He noticed that she stopped making meaningless demands and genuinely asked for things only when she needed them, without the expectation that he was just gonna drop everything and give it to her, which allowed her to find a new level of respect for him and stop taking him for granted. And you know what? Their sex life skyrocketed because no one wants to a pushover. I said what I said, women like men with spines. And even though most of us will gladly accept a favor when it's offered, and sure, being catered to 24/7 is nice, what we are really looking for is an equal, a partner who we respect. And by learning to say no, that is exactly who my client became. Learning to set boundaries in a relationship is like casting a broken arm. You're not gonna like it at first. It's bulky, it's itchy, and it ruins every outfit. But underneath it, there's healing going on. And like so many things that are good for us in life, it feels tough and uncomfortable at first, but the benefits pay off in the long run. By learning to say no, my client learned how to say yes to himself. And he took that newfound confidence with him to work, to his family, and beyond. So here it is, your official permission slip to start saying no to women and yes to yourself. Anyone who loves you will thank you in the long run. By the way, a lack of boundaries is one of the most hidden causes of erectile dysfunction in men and one of the biggest reasons that causes them to go soft. If you want more on that and other hidden secret causes of ED, check out my Hard As You Want course. Link is in the description. I'm Caitlin B. Thank you for watching. Make sure you are subscribed. Check out the link for Hard As You Want in the description. I'll see you here next week. Mwah. Bye.